Your mega bestseller, The Psychology of Money, changed my life, changed the way I think about money, changed my mindset about money. And I want to read to you on page 41. This is the chapter Never Enough.
Yep.
And you write, the hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. If expectations rise with results, there is no logic in striving for more because you'll feel the same after putting in extra effort. It gets dangerous when the taste of having more money, more power, more prestige, increases ambition faster than satisfaction. In that case, one step forward pushes the goalpost two steps ahead. You feel as if you're falling behind, and the only way to catch up is to take greater and greater amounts of risk. Can you unpack that for us?
What's funny when you read that, I remember writing those sentences. I remember where I was when I wrote those specific
Where were you?
sentences. I was in my basement at a house in Virginia where I wrote this book. And I remember writing that and thinking, I mentioned this earlier, but so much of what I write about is self-reflection. And it's not that I've mastered these things and I'm just trying to show you how smart I am. It's like I wrote that because I've fallen for that trap all the time. It's true that the expectations game has no ending. There's always somebody who is getting richer faster than you. And if you're always just seeking validation, if your key to happiness is always, if only I had what that person has, you're never going to be satisfied with what you have. And the more dangerous thing, I think, is once you have that mindset that if only I had more, I would be happier, then it kind of grows exponentially.
Mm.
Because if you tell yourself, I'll be happy once I have $10,000, and then you get 10,000 and you're like, oh, maybe it's 100,000. Maybe if I had $100,000, then I'd be happy. And then maybe you're fortunate enough to get that money. And then it's, oh, maybe it's a million. It grows exponentially.
And so I also think that there is this thing that happens, at least it happened for me, that as I started to feel like I wasn't under such crushing debt, or I got some reward at work, a small bonus, whatever, I immediately upticked the amount of money or the expense of the thing that I was already buying.
Right. And part of that I think is fine. I think people can spend money in a way that's going to make them happier. There are some people who would give you the advice of like, it's never going to make you happier. Just save everything that you can, live like a monk. And that's not my message. I think you can spend money as in way. I found ways of spending money in my own household that I'm like, oh, that was well worth it. But I also, back to the expectations thing. I grew up around Lake Tahoe, California.
Okay.
And this was before tech money, where Tahoe and Truckee, the town that I lived in, was not very wealthy. It is now because tech money came in. But back then, it was very much a middle class town. And then I went to college in Los Angeles. And I couldn't believe making that shift from middle class mountain town to Beverly Hills kind of area, what it did to my definition of rich. As I said earlier, it used to be that my definition of rich was a new pickup truck,
Yep.
a new F-150 was that's a rich person. And I moved to LA and it just exploded. No matter how successful you are, you pull up to a stoplight and even if you're driving a Lamborghini, there's 17 others right there. And you never feel like you're getting enough. And the conditions for happiness, I think, were much greater in that middle class town. Now, I did a pretty good job in LA in my own mind of still keeping my expectations in check. I think a lot of that was fear. I always had a fear that I was never going to make it, and so I was saving as much as I could just out of a sense of fear. But if I look at everybody else, like who was happier? It was the people who were living a modest life, enjoyed their family, had good time with their friends, focused on their health, and lived what was by comparison to others a very modest life. And so I think about that now of like, what should your aspiration be? It's interesting with parents.